Hi everyone. All right, so we're doing something a little different today. I'm showing the video to make the embed to make another soap. So this isn't the final soap. This is just the thing I'm making to make the soap, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. So it's just a smaller batch. It's just a little over 2 pound batch of my normal recipe. So we're gonna start with our lye, raw silk, and sodium lactate solution. Like it, most of it to go in there, that'd be great. All right, and like normal, we're gonna mix a little bit. Burp this, there we go. And my goat milk I'm adding in, if you saw my other Halloween video, it is it's a little chunky because it is frozen. I don't usually like to do that. It can cause false trace, so we'll see if I get it here to show you guys. Yeah, I am getting a false trace, so you can see it. Cool. Hold on. Hold, please. Let me blend this for a second so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. It's so bubbly. There we go. Bubbles. We don't want bubbles. So you can kind of see it's a little bit thicker automatically, and it doesn't really want to incorporate as well because when this was room temperature, but when there's a huge difference like it is when that frozen chunky goat milk, because I got it out of the freezer too late, whoops, it tends to make it look thicker and it acts like it's going to trace, but it's not actually going to trace. It's just the reaction from the two extreme heat differences. So I don't know if you could see that really well. I was busy trying to blend it versus talking about it, but give this a couple more blends here. Oh, still bubbly. I don't know if you can hear the difference. I can hear the difference when there's a lot of air or there's bubbles. You just don't want bubbles. Come on, stop. I actually prefer my other stick blender for that reason. It doesn't tend to trap as much air, but
it's dirty and I didn't wash it. So I'm using this one because
I cannot be trusted to make good adult decisions. So, all right, that's pretty well incorporated. So I'm just gonna add in our fragrance oil. This is Crisp Juniper from Nurture Soap Supplies. I really like the scent. I had used it before, but a friend of mine, Sharon from Willow Bella Soaps, which if you haven't seen her soaps, you should go and look at them. They're amazing. But she brought it up to me and she was like, oh, I love this smell. And she blends it with pumpkin, which I actually did with another soap that has a similar theme to this one. This one is also going to be a blend of pumpkin and this Crisp Juniper. Well, when you see what I'm doing here, it'll make more sense why I'm trying to get this done now, because it's a lot of embed. It's basically going to be an embed with a little bit of soap underneath it. So, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's get this part divided out. So we're making a big ol' hunkin' moon. There's our big ol' moon. Hopefully it's all settled. When you're pouring embeds like this, pro tip, put it in a pitcher that can contain the mess if the sides don't hold. Because what I have found tends to happen, for me at least, is that I'm not a good soap folder inner person when it comes to that particular type of mold, these column molds. But inevitably, these love to burst down the seams. It's a little too full on me. So I just, just put it in here. It's easier, it's safe, and that way if it does have a mess, like you're set, right? So anyway, the Crisp Juniper behaves super well. We're gonna go ahead and add a gray to this one and a little bit of black to this one. And then the majority of this is going to be white. This isn't actually titanium dioxide. This is winter white. with oils that I actually took from the recipe to mix in here. I haven't used this exclusively as the lightning colorant, but in a big batch. I've done it with a smaller piece of something, but I'm just trying to see if I can be lazy and mix this and get the same nice white color than having to prep my TD, because my time is getting away from me right now. So I'm trying to find ways to save it. And that's not terrible. I'm actually gonna add the rest of this in, because like I said, this is oils from the batch. So I wasn't sure if I would like it, but I do. I'm gonna add some of this to the gray, because I don't want the gray too dark. So we're gonna make a giant moon. I don't know if I already said that part or not. And I had this kind of image in my head of like the old school bats like flying across the moon. And I've been making all these cool little bat extruded dough, thanks to Lisa at I Dream in Soap. She sells these extruder discs, and which makes these bats. You can see here, it's a bat. Hooray, bat. Mine aren't perfect, and that's not her fault, that's my fault. I actually had misjudged the size of the extender on my extruder. So I'm having to kind of use something wonky to make it look the way it should, but it's not her fault. It's not on her, that's on me. So anyway, what I wanted to do is I wanted to make the bats flying across the moon, and I couldn't do that in a fluid soap, because then I couldn't control the bats as easily. So I just kind of forgot I wanted to do it and went on to something else. And then earlier today when I was playing in the studio, I was like, whoa, I could do a big giant cylinder moon and put all the bats in there, and then I can control where they are. So that's where we are. That's what we're doing. Here we are. So we're going to be using this one. The heart's just there to kind of give it stability. And I am just going to basically do a in the pot swirl, because I really want this to be mostly white, right? Like the moon's not usually really gray and black. I mean, it is a little bit in my little images here. Can you see that? Let me see. Oh yeah, you can see that. Good. So we're just gonna, a little bit of gray, not a whole bunch, just a little bit. And then just literally a dash of the black. Let's see how that pours. You know, I'm probably gonna transfer this to another container. Oh, because I don't think that's gonna pour real good. Which is good, because it'll blend it a little bit more for us. Okay, let's see how this looks. Do I want more gray than that? Just for fun. All right, cross your fingers, guys, that I actually sealed this correctly. So far, so good. Nothing is more frustrating than when you're doing this and like all of a sudden, like you're seeing it fill up and seeing it fill up, and then all of a sudden it starts not filling up. It's because it's going out the bottom. Hooray! It's the worst. And I know it's the worst because it's happened to me more than I would like to say. Because again, that's not something I'm good at. And hopefully you can see that. I'm looking at the camera instead of what I'm doing. I'm just trying to get a little bit of, I don't know, a little bit of difference in there, a little bit of movement and color. I don't like it when things are the same. I like it when things are a little interesting to look at. So I'm just gonna pour some of this gray and this black in my pitcher, kind of make a more interesting looking moon, right? And I considered doing a yellow moon, you know, because that's like the classic Halloweeny moon. But I decided to go with the grays and the blacks and the white because at the end of the day, you know, this needs to make, you know, me happy. That's what I do this for. Like, I love you guys and you're awesome and you're super cool. It's all that good stuff. But like, this is my soap addiction. This is my therapy. And I think that this moon looks cool like that. So I'm gonna pour the rest of my white into here. Don't worry, if we have extra, it's gonna actually get put into a kitty mold. So I've got a very special kitty that I'm gonna try to do homage to. So I'd not be sad if I have a lot of this gray over here left over. All right, so now same thing. We'll add a line of the gray. We'll do it on this side this time. Add a line of the gray. And we'll add a line of the black. And then we just pour again, hopefully inside the moon versus outside. I'm starting to lose my line there, so time to pour some more. I'm not sure if you can see, but all I'm doing is just kind of pouring it along the side here. So the main batter stays gray, that darker gray, you can see it here. So that's all I'm doing. It's not anything exciting. And I learned this actually doing Soap Challenge Club. We did a clamshell technique, and this kind of pattern I'm doing, as well as, you know, layering it in the mold like that, I learned from that. Okay, I'm gonna stop there for just a second. I'm gonna start putting some of our bats in, because not all of these are that long. So I want them to kind of come out of the bottom and then be flying up and out. But I want them all oriented so it looks like they're coming out of the bottom corner. See, I knew I was gonna have a couple that were a little short. That's why we have appropriately sized tongs. If you don't understand that reference, there is a video on my YouTube that will explain that, because I can't explain that. You just have to go watch. It's a mess is what it is. All right, so my other little bat kind of got tucked under here. Okay. This one's kind of curved. I want to find the straighter ones. All right, maybe like one more of these. I think it's gonna be one more here. Let's put you down here. I really want the bottom to be like super packed with bats. Yeah. Good. Now we can do one more on the outside. It's a bigger one. Problem is some of these are a little curved, so I'm like having issues making sure that they go in where they should. Oh, it's not as big as it friends. I should put another one there. You know, I had a couple of these that were a little shorter. And these guys I'm just gonna kind of tuck in, so one of these bars will look really extra batty. Kind of like me, I'm extra batty. Just taking other pieces and using them to stuff the other ones down. Okay, that's all the pieces I had. And now I'm just gonna cover the rest of these, like so. All right, so that, I don't wanna mess with the sides too much because I don't want it to leave, but I do want you to not have air holes, please. All right. All right, so I'm gonna clean it up a little bit, but that's what it'll look like. And then when it's ready tomorrow, I'll just cut that part with the sticky outy bats off, and then the rest will go elsewhere. So thanks for watching. All right, so if you've seen my videos before, you know they're not very complicated. We're gonna go ahead and pour in our lye solution with our raw silk, sodium lactate, and powdered sugar. I use a lot of sodium lactate, more than most people do, which I did not realize until recently. My sister came down and she's like, how much do you use? I'm like, I just... so that's why a lot of times my lye solution looks so full. It's not lye solution, it's sodium lactate. And that's our goat milk. So we'll get a little mixy mix. Mixer is incorporating bubbles and I can hear it and it's driving me nuts. But it's the last soap of the night, so last soap of the season, Halloween season. I love Halloween. I'm sure I'm not alone. And it's funny, I was talking to some other people and they're like, oh, Halloween doesn't sell for me. And I did well last year with Halloween soaps. I didn't do a whole bunch of them, but this year I figured just, do it. Let's go crazy. So there's a ton of Halloween soap this year. I hope you guys like it. I hope it does well. We'll see. October 10th is the next release date for all of these guys, which is why I have to stop now. On 2. I'm gonna put it back on 1. It's happier there, but that's enough. That's enough blending. And then I'm just gonna pop in our activated charcoal, which is mixed with some olive oil from the recipe. You don't have to do that way. I had used this earlier, so I just kind of had it laying around. You don't always have to take oils from the recipe to do this. I did in this case, just worked out. But it's one of those things that, like, soapers, man, we're such a weird bunch. We're like, oh, measure everything exactly. don't make a mistake. Don't, you know, change anything around. And then like when it comes to adding in the micas, someone will ask and they'll be like, oh, do I have to measure that out exactly? And like 90% of us are going to be like, it's super fat. So that's a lot of times my answer when people ask me questions about, you know, oh, well, do I have to measure that out? You don't really have to. I mean, unless your super fat's like something bananas. I usually super fat between 5 and 7%. Oop, had a pumpkin wiggle. So if you super fat way higher than that, you may want to. But as a rule, no, you don't have to. This is our fragrance oil going in. And I don't know, I haven't used this mold a long time. I usually don't use these molds. This is my mold from Essential Depot. I like the mold. Oh God, that smells so good. But it's just not, I don't like the size of the bars, but this moon was so big that I had to give up my tall and skinnies and go to something a little different. So that's why you see this mold tonight. So we are going to try to break our fall. Start getting this in because I don't want my embeds to wander. I don't care if they go out. I do care if they go in. All right, so I'm gonna stop there. We're just gonna make sure you can see some of the little bubbles popping up, and a little bit more, I guess. This smells so good. All right, that's probably as much as I want to do for the second. Shimmy it down. Let's get some ghosties in. Where's my tongs? I'm not always really good about grabbing for my tongs. I'll, you know, usually just do it with my hands, but I'm trying to be better about that. Make sure I had that right. Now remember, this side doesn't have moon. It won't have moon, so because I don't have enough moon for it. So I've got to spice it up a little bit. Just trying to add all the ghosties in. Some of these will have a lot of ghosties, some of these won't have as many. Okay, let's get the rest of that in. That is thickening up on me, which I didn't actually expect it to do that much, but it's all right. Makes up for it with how good it smells. It smells delicious. And it's probably too much soap for what I'm about to do to it, but that's okay. Oh, I'm gonna make a mess. Oh, it's gonna be so messy. So messy. All right, so we want our moon. See, here's our moon. We want it to... Woo, it's a mess. Oh, I have to put this in. I guess we'll do this. That is actually not as terrible as I thought it was going to be to collect that out. It's interesting. All right. It's about to get worse because I got to shove it in more. How's that? Do I like that? All right. It's going to be where it's at. Woo! This episode of Whitney Makes a Horrific Mess, we have Whitney making a horrific mess. Probably shouldn't have done that, but that's all right. That's what happens when you don't use something a whole bunch and then refuse to do math. Messes happen. somewhere Lisa is in England shivering because she knows that horrible atrocities have just been committed to soap. And it was me. I did it. I'd say I was sorry, but I'm really not. Alright. That's speeding up on me quite a bit. I wonder if it must be the pumpkin because the chocolate said it behaves well. Which, I mean, you can't always believe Brambleberry, but usually they're not terrible with their testing. Although I usually have the opposite. Like, they say it's great, it does horrible things to me. They say it's horrible, it behaves beautifully. So maybe this is one of those episodes. All right, so I'm gonna clean up this disaster and then do something with this little space here. Maybe put some ghosts on the side. I don't know. It'll take me a second. I'll be back.